If you are frustrated and you're trying to buy an asset in a market and you are not getting the attention of any of the brokers in the town, today's episode is going to be absolutely encouraging to you. Today, I have Alex Olson with Clemons Brokerage from Kansas City with me, and he is going to explain his BRSS system. You're going to have to listen because it's not the BRRRR system that we always hear about in bigger pockets. This is different, and it's something that is very unique to how they structure things for their buyers. So again, if you are ready to look into and learn how to get the attention of brokers in hot markets, this episode is absolutely for you. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Ask Me How I Know. Today, I am joined by an absolutely dynamite, fantastic, awesome person. I'm so excited to have you on the show, Alex. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, we've already had to re-record the introduction because I dropped it. It's already lots of fun, right?
That's right.
So you are in a super hot market. Like Kansas City is on fire, and there are some pain points that come with hot markets. And I thought that maybe we could have a little bit of a conversation about how, people involved in real estate can actually get some traction in a hot market. Like, how would we get your attention?
Yeah. I mean, that's the hard part, right? I mean, you get into this thing and when you're looking to buy real estate, you hear the good things about Kansas City. You got Patrick Mahomes. You got oh, it's the Midwest. It's got to be cheaper than the coast. Oh, it's all these other things. And then you get into the market when you're looking to buy something and you go, holy crap. It's expensive. It's more expensive than maybe you thought. And I can't get anybody to call me back. And I think that's a lot of what, people that aren't in sales experience when they're trying to buy real estate or even anything. You'd think like, hey, how come no one's calling me back? This is pretty basic here. This is sales 101 is returning phone calls. Well, the reason why that's there is it happens is because people are so busy with everybody else calling and the fact that the property is probably going to sell anyway. So it doesn't matter whose call they answer because, it's going to sell. Someone's going to buy it. And so Logan Freeman, myself, which I know you know pretty well, and he's awesome. He and I created this system that's called the Buyer's Representation Success System. And in the real estate world, it's important to really have buyer's representation. But if you're buying something that's kind of expensive, or if you're buying something that's maybe 4+ units, you're probably likely in other markets going to speak only to the listing agent. And the listing agent is, they're one-sided. Now they have a lot of the same fiduciary responsibilities that your own agent would have, but they also may not be super excited to reveal every detail of the project. So that's kind of why we developed the system, is to actually bring people in, help them out. They have a need. We walk them through a process of, hey, look, we're going to represent you as a buyer, and we're going to help you find the best deals. We have a weekly deal flow email that comes out. We have all the market insights you could ever ask for. We watch and track all the deals, and we can easily get them lined up with property management, attorneys, everything you need to close out the transaction. And of course, our benefit is that we get to satisfy a buyer client and make commission on that. That's the only way we really make money, but that's really the best way. Get paid for doing a job, I guess.
So really, like, my husband is a residential broker, and like we have vast experience in the residential world. And so to make this into the, common, everyone can understand this, right? When you go to buy a single family home, for your family and everything, you have 2 agents involved typically, and you have your, listing agent, you have your selling agent. And, there are some states that don't allow dual representation. So right. It's because, like you're saying, there's a conflict of interest to sorts. And if you don't have confidence in who you're working with, now I happen to know Logan and I trust him implicitly because, he's just a man of integrity. And by nature of getting to know, I'm just assume that you're going to be the exact same way because Logan's that awesome. I'm like, Logan would only work with people that have this high standard and this high caliber. So, but that was like that conflict of interest it's legit if you don't have the right person on the other end. Because if it sells for $1 million more, dang, that's a lot more on your commission side, as
Yeah, and brokers too. I mean, look, I'm not going to speak bad about any individual broker, but there are a lot of people that really kind of hope and bank on, well, I can get both sides of the commission because you've got an agreement with the seller, and oftentimes in commercial real estate, the commission is less. At least in the Midwest here, than what you'd see on a single family home purchase, because you're negotiating a little bit different with the seller. But so the broker's like, man, if I put this on the market, maybe I don't have to share all my commission. Maybe I can just really work with buyers, because a lot of buyers that are spending big bucks, they may and probably have bought commercial real estate in the past. And so they know kind of what they're dealing. So they feel like maybe they don't need representation. Some of that is true. However, if you're coming into a new market, especially if you're coming into like Kansas City, and especially when it's hot, even if you've been in the market before, you're coming into Kansas City, you're coming back. I've had people come into my office recently that haven't been in the market, haven't bought anything in Kansas City in 3 years. And so I'm kind of having to re-educate them on how much has changed. And they really appreciate that. Whereas you don't get that if you're, just coming in right now. You might go, holy crap, everything's overpriced. Well, it's all relative. And having a buyer agent that really understands that, you can get a lot better deals than just if you go direct to a broker, because you're trying to get one person, you're trying to get everybody's attention. If you go, you're looking for a deal, right? That means you're calling broker A, B, C, D, all those, every broker in town. And you're trying to get everybody's attention. And they catch on pretty quick that, hey, this guy, and we catch on to it too, like, hey, this guy's actually calling everybody in town. I know because we know everybody. And I can also know by how they're talking, because they're not giving me their full attention. They're just looking for the, oh my gosh, most amazing deals of all time. And so we all catch on to that, and we just kind of say, yeah, here's some on-market stuff that I have. Good luck. And, because they think that they're saving money, which really they're not. And you're also getting yourself in a bad position when it comes to financing. In a market like Kansas City, where the financing aspect of it, you're buying it based on a projected performance of the property. You have to have a lender that understands that. And if you come in with, not to poop on US Bank, but if you're coming in with a national bank like US Bank and you think they're going to finance it, that could mess up your deal. And you might be sitting close to the closing table, and you get there and you're about ready to sign your papers. And they say, oh, wait a second, we need 3 environmental reports. We need, 2 years worth of tax returns from the seller. The seller's going to say, hey, look, go pound sand. I've got 16 other buyers lined up because it's a hot market. And oh, by the way, you also spent, $5,000 on inspections and appraisal fees. So just, keep that in mind when you're going out buying real estate. Even if you're doing your preliminary research into a project, try and find an actual person who enjoys working with buyers. They are more unique.
It is like, it doesn't matter what real estate niche you're in. If you don't love working with buyers,
yeah,
it's totally true. Everybody's like, I just want to list. It's so much easier. I don't have to worry about shopping people around. And
yeah, listing it, gives a perception of easier. You're doing a lot of your work on the front end.
Yeah, easy.
Easier. A lot of work on the front end, and you're also eliminating a lot of the time wasters, the tire kickers. And we don't see, Logan and I don't see them as that. Yes, they do take some time, but it's really kind of educating them, the buyer, and then also like just staying in front of them, keeping it going. And at some point they're going to buy, and maybe they never buy. But like I tell, when I'm cold calling buyers, even, I say, hey, look, you may never sell to me. You may give your properties to your sons and daughters or whoever, but maybe you've got an uncle or a niece or somebody who owns real estate or wants to buy it, and I want to be that representation. So that's just something that is hard to grasp when you're first starting out. But you as you buy a couple properties, you start to kind of go, okay, let's get with the experts here and get the best deals we can.
So, okay, this is super rock star dedication. You're cold calling for buyers.
Yes.
Like, I've never heard of anyone doing that, which tells me you're doing something that's like disruptive, to the environment, because nobody else is doing that, because it's so far outside of the paradigm that people are going to be like, why? They would question, why would I do that? The buyers will just come to me. So I love this. Tell me more about, how you're approaching and going for buyers.
Well, I'll say a couple things. I mean, one thing just to get it out of the way. So I'm calling property owners for buyers. The good thing about the system that Logan and I have is we have a lot of buyers. Okay. And we also have a lot of 1031 exchange clients that are in need of identifying a property to close out. So, obviously, so we're avoiding, or at least deferring paying taxes until a later date. And so, and a lot of the buyers that we have, they all have similar criteria. Now, some like certain states, as in, Kansas versus Missouri. Some like certain types, as in, townhouse built in 1990s versus, all brick 12-plex or something, right? And so that's the advantage of working with buyers, is because, and I have a lot of examples of this where I call a property owner and they say, yeah, I know you work with buyers. Everybody and their mom tells me that they've got a buyer for this thing. And so I actually have one literally today that's closing, where I told the guy, I met him on, I introduced myself to him on Facebook, cold Facebook message, whatever you call that. And said, hey, look, I have a 1031 exchange client that's interested in your property. And he didn't believe me, but we're closing on it today with that 1031 exchange client.
Whoa.
So, yeah, stuff like
Congratulations.
That. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's a big deal too. So I appreciate it because, that's what I try to, and then I'll end up going back to this particular seller and saying, hey, look, remember when you didn't believe me that I didn't have a buyer? Well, hopefully if you ever do any other real estate again in Kansas City, which he has other property here, you'll think of me and understand that, I'm telling the truth, unlike, probably maybe a few other brokers are out there. So these are the stories that I love, because it's like, true stories. It keeps the momentum going, and it's not unbelievable, but it's like, is that really true? But it is.
You guys are going to have such a really cool book to write, in not too long. You guys can publish a book of these wild stories of, the deals that you closed because you thought outside the box and you weren't doing the norm. Like when you're trying to draw in the buyers and attract them, and then okay, like, my mind's kind of exploding a little bit, but let's just look at it this way. A lot of people say, oh, if you have the money, then you can have the deal. Or if you have the deal, the money will follow. Well, if you have the buyer, you have the it's one of those.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. It's fun to line it up. And that's, I've got a couple of favorite stories, but those are, this one, which I haven't really been able to talk about, because it didn't close until today. Is one of my new favorites. We'll just put it that way.
Right. Okay. So someone's listening to this and they're a newer investor, and now they're like, I have got to go work with Alex and Logan. I got to go to Clemons. I've got to make this happen. So people, you definitely need to be reaching out. It is such a great market. But how did they, let me backtrack again. I have my thoughts are exploding. So let me slow myself down here a little bit and ask you this question. You mentioned earlier that you could get to the closing table, and if you're working with a national lender and now they want all these reports and XYZ. I've experienced that, in different markets. Every market is very, very unique. When we bought a home in rural North Idaho, it's like, you better be working with a local lender because appraisers and nobody speaks the language of this really remote, crazy rural town. So right. This resonates so strongly with me and my local real estate market. But a lot of people aren't familiar with that. They just think like, well, great, I got these rates, I have this, I can go shop around across the country, whatever. But what are some of the things that you would say, get your ducks lined up, people, buyers? This is what I want to see in my ideal buyer. I would like to see them have these, structures in place so that when I have that property, we're ready to move.
Yep. And great questions, because it's so important. So the first thing is, yes, a lender, and maybe you have your own lender that you've done 20 deals with them before, but reaching out to a broker in a local market saying, hey, look, who's the lender you've done the most deals with, or that your clients or whoever's done the most deals with? That'll give you the best insight, because you come, like I said before, you come in with a semi-national or regional lender. They might have, it's not a teaser introductory term, it's a real, here's the terms, but those terms are probably for like an A or a B class property where it's fully stabilized and, you're putting down 30% or something like that. And so you can get those amazing terms, but what they don't really disclose is that's kind of best case scenario. And so, and it's very difficult from as an agent to convince the buyer that, hey, look, your lender, I'm sure maybe they can do it, and I'm happy that they can do it, but maybe use those amazing rates and terms as a backup. And so you can do kind of a two-way, or have two different banks kind of competing to see which ones can close out. Now, I don't like really doing that sometimes because of, it can frustrate the banks. But I think if you're upfront and honest with them, say, hey, look, I'm working with Bank A and your Bank B, and they're telling me these amazing rates. I mean, is there anything you can do about that, and vice versa? And usually they'll kind of weed themselves out, actually, where they say, you know what, Bank A is great, just go with them. They're going to be a better fit for this kind of property. So being able to understand those key factors can help make sure you don't waste your time with a certain bank.
And I'll say, if they can't close, it's just very important. I even just think having a local bank just as your fail-safe local, locals are very powerful opportunities there.
Yeah, and they really are. Even this bank that we use all the time here, Logan uses them all the time as well. Matter of fact, I think he's their biggest client. But, I've used them for my stuff as well before I got into brokerage. And they came in and were able to, and this is, like you talked about, local banks. So they were able to come in, close out a deal in 14 days when another bank failed.
What?
Yeah.
14 days?
On a commercial loan, yeah.
That's unheard of. I mean, it's not, obviously it happened, but I just know that that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's kind of the power of the local banks. And I understand, like I said, it's hard to, especially if a relationship with a national bank that you've done some business with, it's hard to gravitate towards other banks. And I get that, but especially when you're doing your first deal in the market, that's where it's the most important. Because, when you do your first deal, it's much easier to do your second deal. So, and the bank is one of the top. I mean, that's the first question I ask people, like you, because that was your original question, was, well, how do they get started? Well, banking's number one, getting some kind of pre-approval letter available. And so that's number one. Number two that you need to have is know something about the market, please. I'm, the expert here because I live here and do it every day. But, if you come into the market saying, hey, look, I'm looking for an 8% cap rate on existing for multifamily, I'm going to know that you probably have been living under a rock for a while, because that hasn't been available for a while. So just know something, because
Do
that's how
your
you
basic
gain.
homework.
Yeah, and that's how you gain credibility with a broker, right? Is to say, look, I got a pre-approval letter, or hey, Mr. Broker, Mrs. Broker, I need a bank, I need a lender. And then, hey, look, I'm looking for a cap rate, maybe kind of in this range, or at least I'm looking for cash flow in this range. Is that realistic? Those are some basic questions that'll get you very far with brokers in Kansas City, or anywhere probably for that matter.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, knowing something about the market and not expecting, just to go and be a leech and say, just teach me, because your job is not just solely like you guide and you facilitate, but it's not like, this is stuff you can go and educate yourself on. You need to come and you need to bring something to the table so you have some buy-in. Like, otherwise, how do I know that you're not doing this in every other market across the country,
Right.
until the fish bites.
Right, exactly. If you're out there fishing, it's kind of discouraging, and gives you a bad reputation.
That's wild. So your system, and I'm going to say it wrong because honestly, the way the acronym looks, it reminds me of BRRS, like a BRRS strategy, but it's bursts buyer representations
success system.
There's another S, and the S's where I'm like stuck on the S's. Okay. So you're going in, let's just do a quick little recap here. Buyers are interested in the Kansas City market and maybe some of the surrounding markets, I imagine.
Yep.
You guys can, and they've done some homework and they understand some of the nuances of the market. They have a bank where maybe they reach out to you and say, hey, what local bank should we connect up with? They get that dialed in. And now, is it go time, or is there anything else that your ideal buyer would have in place?
Yeah, so a couple things we do here is we ask them to complete a short form. It's, 5 or 6, 8 questions, something like that. And that tells us, what they're going to spend or wanting to spend, some of those other little things. We set up a call with them, a 15-minute call. That's, could be 3 minutes, could be 15, sometimes it goes 30. And then from there, really they're kind of added to our list almost automatically, as long as we know that they're real, preferably not a local broker, and some of these other things, because we've got some off-market deals on there. But we're pretty open and honest about who we work with and what we do. So that's really it. And as part of that, so now they're in the system, and really it's kind of, we ask them to take the action on it. Okay, because we're putting in our best deals in front of them every single week. I provide a narrative to why they should look at certain deals every single week. They've got access to those I call them the deal file, right? Where you've got whatever information I've received on it. It's in the deal file, so you go look at it. And then from there, we also have just a couple of quick nuggets or quick news articles that talk about the Kansas City market. And that kind of helps bring them up to speed on hot topics, right? So you're getting, here's why you should buy these properties, links to the deals, and then also some new, local news. And then when you see a property you want more information on, people send me an email, people call me, do whatever, say, hey, look, I'm interested in this deal. And then we start pulling apart the deal to see if it's going to work for them. And that's kind of like a silent kind of person would do it. Hey, look, put me on your deal file list and we'll talk later kind of thing. Then you have other people too, which want, a little bit more interaction, which is totally fine, where they say, hey, look, send me a deal that looks like A, B, and C. They send them the best thing we've got. We start iterating. I start maybe showing them how our pro forma works. Because the pro forma that we do is based on, the projected performance of the property. And that's based on what we believe is how an average investor would and should look at it. And that pro forma indicators in there are always changing based on what the market's like. And then it also is very specific to that property and that submarket and that block. I mean, all that kind of stuff. And we do a pro forma probably on 95% of the properties that we put in front of people, and just helping them understand where our head's at. And, occasionally we get some people like, oh my gosh, I've never buy anything like this. And that's fine. But somebody will.
Right.
So I mean, just having it gets back to having realistic expectations and trying to build trust with the buyer.
That's interesting. There's always that joke of I've never met a pro forma I didn't like.
Right, exactly.
They're always so delicious, like amazing. It's like this, I have to buy this. This is
why
it.
would you not buy it?
Right, exactly. The understanding. I love the client care that is, I mean, like, this is very concierge. And I understand, like, I get so many solicitations, so many emails from different people with their quote off market deals or their whatever deals that they have. But this is very like top shelf, leveled up. It's more boutique-y, if you don't mind me saying so, versus, just the standard broker approach of I'm just sending this email out and you can click the link and follow more. But to provide more information is also educating your buyers, which makes your job easier also because they are more educated. So, okay, I have to ask this question. Are you guys going to kind of like syndicate the idea, if you don't mind, like, put this in different markets, teach other brokers?
We've talked about how do we take this to other markets, or at least to kind of see how that goes. And we haven't even had a chance to think heavily about it.
Because you're so busy serving buyers. Jeez.
Yeah, so busy in the Kansas City market. I mean, the easy ones to take it to from a national market are, St. Louis, right? I mean, that's a top 25 market in terms of population. Kansas City is technically in the top 30. The activity level in St. Louis is less, at least that's the way we perceive it. But we have our Missouri license, and so that's kind of an easy one to hop over into. And then from there, you also have the Illinois side, because St. Louis is very connected to Illinois, of course, and just a lot of the Midwest stuff. I'm from Lincoln, Omaha area. In fact, one of my clients is up there right now looking at deals, and they're harder to, I shouldn't say harder to come by, they're fewer to come by. Obviously, because they're a lot smaller markets, so they're just by law, by nature, there's not as many deals up there. So anyway, those are kind of the things we're thinking about, but we haven't put pen to paper to really dive into the next step on it.
At the next meeting, the next time you guys have one of those great cheese and cracker spreads in the office, I was eating through the pictures. I'm like, oh, I just need to go and make sure I
think I ate almost the whole table, actually. Whatever was left, I think I ate the rest.
Right. I believe it looked amazing, but that could be the next topic of conversation, right?
That's right. Yeah.
It's hard when you're busy to take the time. I just took a thinking day because nice. I have all these really great ideas, but sometimes you just have to like step away from the noise and just like sift through the ideas and say, what needs to be plucked? Is there anything noteworthy here? Or is this all just a bunch of fluffy, fun ideas? Am I too in the clouds? Can I bring some of these to ground and actually bring them to life?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's one of the things too, and I have like, I don't do a great job of journaling like Logan does and some of the other people and some of these other things, but I have a very defined daily task list, and they're all numbered, prioritized. And I also have a defined, year and quarter. And so for me, obviously, quarter two is already done, even though it doesn't end for another 27 days or whatever it is. But from a transaction standpoint, we got a couple other closings this month. But my point is, we're always thinking 2-3 months ahead. And then, once the half of the year ticks over to July, mid-July, I'm thinking about 2022. But I've really committed 2021 to what I call like my head down year, where the only thing, because I knew it was going to be a hot year. I shouldn't say I knew. I predicted and thought it'd probably be a hot year for the multifamily real estate market just because of all the pent up demand from the lack of action last year with the, now people feel better about the world. So they're doing a lot more stuff this year. So this was my head down year. Start thinking about 2022, how to expand, how to automate a little bit more. I mean, we always, like you said, want to have the concierge feel. I think we can always do that, but there's some easier automation pieces in here. Like everything is still really manual on how we set up meetings, how we, get them really into the system and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. It's not a big deal. But, how can we streamline it and be able to spend even more time with the buyers that are really interested, or more time with sellers who maybe don't know they want to sell yet, but we can inform them that, hey, we have a buyer that everything matches up with what you want to sell your property for. So that's kind of where 2022 is getting me. So I really like your idea of the thinking day. I'll probably have to have a couple of those in July and September to get geared up for 2022.
I won't lie. So I put off I won't lie because I don't lie, because there's no need to even preface it with that. But it's funny how people have these expressions and don't think about it, right? I'm chuckling. But I had wanted to take a thinking day, and some people go away, some executives and such will go away for a weekend and do a personal retreat and things like that. I just, as a, I have a family and I have too many pulls, so I can't take that much time. But to take that day, I put it off for 2 months, and I finally put it on my calendar and said, be congruent, stick to this. You need this more than you realize. Now it's a recurring event. So I've done it one time, and now I just put the third Thursday of every month is a baked in think day, because I think I realized how much it just alleviated so much mentally. Mm-hmm. And I threw a massage in there, so I won't lie.
That's the important part.
That's important, but it was as part of that, really taking care to step aside, nurture the creativity, nurture the thoughts, pluck them, feed them, and there's physiology involved where you can just relax yourself into things. So I highly recommend it. Bake it into your schedule.
No, that's great. And I didn't let myself do really kind of any of that stuff other than, there was random times, mm-hmm. But when you're first get going on a year, you're like, okay, I got to go and get myself set up. And then you keep going, and then you forget how to think. And
you're entering Q3 basically. So
exactly.
It's hard. It's counterintuitive because we always, I think we're similar dispositions where it's just be a person of action, just take action and get things mm-hmm. done. And it feels counterintuitive to stop and breathe and to take time to do that. So mm-hmm. It's a lot like yoga. You're getting a better workout. You're getting more from it than you realize.
Right. Takes a couple days.
Right. Just because it's not painful or in your face demanding doesn't mean it's not totally worthy. Well, Alex, is there anything else that, before we wrap up this episode, is there anything else that you would like to add for the audience?
I think with this, just with this market in the real estate world, realize, or I shouldn't say realize, but really take a little bit of time, if you're an investor, to think through the long-term nature of what multifamily investment has historically been, and maybe where it's going. If you look at, I'm getting big picture here, but if you look at Europe and some of the other countries in the world, multifamily has been a much larger aspect of their world because of the affordability aspect, and that's now transferring over to the United States. And there's other things in the European economy that have also, transferred over to the United States over time faster. And so anyway, my point is, yes, prices are expensive now, but I don't know and can't predict when they will go down, if ever. Even in times of market crashes, it's just, people always have a place to live and need a place to live. And that's one of the things that multifamily provides. And so it's hard to get over that. So just kind of, take the leap, I guess, is the only thing I can provide guidance on.
I love that. And a little to this point is there's a lot of foreign money pouring into the country. And mm-hmm. So if you think just limited to the United States and that's your limitation there, there's so much money coming in from other countries investing into our country, that can really be an insulator for the that micro niche, that multifamily niche. So
exactly.
Yeah, really important. Oh man, I'm so glad that you came on Ask Me How I Know, Alex. This has been so much fun. And I just appreciate your time. How can people get in touch with you? Best way?
Yeah, best way is on LinkedIn. It's my favorite way, and you can hopefully see my face. At least it looks similar in the picture there. But
it does. Some people don't look similar at all, but I will attest, if you're not watching this on YouTube, which I don't really promote, if you're listening, like, you look the same. Good
okay,
job.
Great. So anyway, just find me on LinkedIn, Alex Olson, OLSON, and that's my favorite way to communicate, starting off, and then we kind of go from there.
I love it. Thank you so much. And to all my fantastic listeners, thanks for listening to another episode. If you have not already shared an episode, this is a great episode to share with somebody. So take time, put it out in your social world, or share it with a direct text or something like that with the people you care about. Until next time, go find your freedom. Thanks so much for joining me for another episode of Ask Me How I Know. This episode was brought to you by 3 Keys Investments. They are dedicated to helping people like you, you, my awesome listeners, develop passive income and legacy wealth through multifamily investing. Feel free to check out their website, 3keysinvestments.com, to see if there is an offering that will help your portfolio grow and meet all of your needs. If you haven't already rated, reviewed, subscribed, liked, all of those bells and whistles, I would be absolutely honored if you would do that for Ask Me How I Know. Thanks again, and go make it a great day.